Welcome back to Seattle Sucks, a podcast about hating the city we love. This is Colin. I'm on the boat with Captain Greg.
Heyo.
And a guest.
Hi.
What's up? We've got.
I thought there was more. Coming.
We've got the endlessly charming and the radio media practiced, media trained, media ninjas. Is that the hand motions you're doing? Is that ninja?
No, keep it coming. Keep it coming. I'm loving this. Keep it coming.
Brian Platt. He is our friend. I thought we should invite him on the podcast because I turned down his invitation to watch Game of Thrones at his house last night with a bunch of people, because that sounds like my idea of hell. So decided to have him back over to the boat.
This is actually now a Game of Thrones podcast. Since you couldn't hear my clever commentary every 3 minutes last night.
Yeah.
I wrote it all down and brought it in.
In between what I'm guessing was everyone else's clever commentary, like at the TV watching party, sounds like that just sounds insane to me.
Well, Greg, I think as a fellow loud person, you should know I never do my commentary in between people's commentary.
No need when you're twice as loud as those other people, is there? You can just talk right over them. It's great. Well, Brian Platt, you know him from reading his work in Jacobin and other places, and mostly from our podcast.
Yeah. Hopefully, mostly.
Exclusively.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so it's been another wild couple weeks. And since Brian loves the police so much, we thought we could maybe open with the big new crane. What is that thing? Tower? The Night's Watch.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere in Rainier Valley, right? In a Safeway parking lot.
That's the Safeway surveillance tower.
Yeah. The panopticon.
The panopticon is opt. It does have, it has windows on all sides.
Yeah, and we should thank our friend Bezos Town, because he might have been the one that actually broke this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually his photo, right?
Yeah,
he was actually shopping down there, because he lives down there by,
Yeah, and he was, very depressed and saddened to see that.
Yeah.
And Crosscut wrote something. There have been a few other pieces I've seen going around. That's where we got our inspiration for our opening bit. Also,
wait, was it? I think that happened after.
Oh,
because we were already getting in. Okay. I was already trolling.
Okay, well, we had some fun with a
lightly needling
friend of the show, Bernard Farquhart, a real person.
No, but he also. It was after that I think he also had some funny. Takes on that, like, it's just surveillance cameras. What? Have you never heard of it?
Well, basically,
this doesn't matter. This is just some guy on Twitter who has just some dude. But we think he's funny.
I think this is important because his point is, like, the panopticon rules if you're law-abiding. Like, you have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
That was his
But
take.
also, it was also like, everyone has surveillance cameras. It's the 21st century. It's like...
Well, again,
The 21st century sucks, Bernard. This is just a particularly, like, gauche and ham-handed, like, particularly ugly example of the surveillance state, like, crushing down on your throat. With its
because you're not just talking a surveillance camera, you're talking about a police-branded
surveillance tower.
In
the middle of a parking lot, so it's incredibly visible. And like when, not to be that guy, but like when Foucault talks about the panopticon too, I mean, part of what he says is it's not just the surveillance itself, it's the knowledge of being surveilled, right? And so those towers, like, serve that dual function. And that, it's like maybe some discrete cameras could be applied in the Safeway parking lot or whatever. But this isn't about discretion at this point, right? This is about informing certain communities that you are being watched, right? Yeah. And I was telling you guys off air a little bit earlier that years ago, in like maybe 2008 or 2009, something like that, there had been all this trouble. I think Long Island, it was actually on Staten Island. But on Staten Island, there had been all this trouble with the local immigrant community and local anti-immigrant sons of cops, quite frankly, like beating up immigrant workers. Like they just grab and beat them up, and they actually grabbed a guy and beat him to death in there. And so like stuff got a little hot in Staten Island for a little bit. And I remember going to do an anti-police protest there, and that was the first I'd ever seen one of those. That they had put them up like in the area where this guy had been picked up. They put him up in this sort of downtown area, these giant towers, and let me tell you, I mean, it was very clear like who was being surveilled, who wasn't being surveilled. I don't think they were out to get those kids. And certainly all the immigrant workers we had talked to thought that they were there for them. So I mean the psychological bit was working, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's unmistakable. So just to describe, if it's not clear what we're talking about, I'm sure you can find it on the internet, the specific of this instance. But we've seen these other places. SPD has a handful of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's on a trailer. It's this very compact thing that's a self-raising crane,
like on a big scissor.
It's a scissor that goes up 100, or probably it's probably 60 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And it has this big tinted windowed box on it, which with surveillance cameras for 24 hours. So you can just pop it up and surveil very visibly, as we're saying, anything, and it's.
Yeah, and it's made to mimic a guard tower. It's a little small to put somebody in, but it's made to look fucking guard tower.
That's the fucking thing.
Which is what's weird about it.
Because...
So when I first saw it, I was like, is there somebody
a person
in there?
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can easily put up a tower that would have just a ball, like a tinted ball on it. It's clearly just cameras, in multiple... No, but this is like a little... It looks like a little hut up there. Mm-hmm. It looks like there are people...
and the bottom of it's white, and it has the black windows. It looks like a fucking
windows.
Tower.
Yeah. It looks like someone could be hanging out in there, and the scale, you can't tell really from the ground. Yeah, it's weird, man, and that's clearly deliberate. It does look like it's a four-sided medieval guard tower, or like you say, like a panopticon from an old English prison. I mean, we were talking about on our premium episode about how policing is about oppressing certain communities, that's its function. Broken windows policing. This seems like a very much part of that theory of cracking down on things like shoplifting.
Well, broken window. The whole idea behind broken windows, right, is to make the neighborhood as hostile as possible to those that would negatively impact home values in a gentrifying area, right?
Yeah.
Which where this tower is going up is in a gentrifying area, and it's in Rainier Valley. Or whatever. I mean, it's done to make the people who are typically victimized by the police feel very unsafe there, in the hopes of, if you make them uncomfortable enough, if you make things bad enough, maybe they'll leave on their own. If they don't leave on their own, then you can take them out in chains, right?
Yeah.
And, the hope is always they'll go away on their own, because that's the cheapest solution, right, for capital.
But if necessary, you have video evidence you can use to arrest people and take them out of the community, decimating it and causing people to get evicted eventually. Lose their places. Colin, what is the general take on this, from those pieces?
Well, just that it kind of was a very chilling thing to see. I think Erica C. Burnett also tweeted about this, wanting to get more information about why it was deployed. And what I saw is that ostensibly it was to control shoplifting, because it's
in the parking lot, so I don't know how that's going to work.
Right,
but
exactly.
No, but to ID the people as they're running
during
away.
egress. To tactically surveil.
Well, that's how shoplifting works, is you run in the store real quick, you grab something, and you speed out the store, too. But,
gotta move fast.
Yeah, you're right. You have to already be caught at that point.
Yeah, basically, I guess,
but like you say, it's psychological. That's the only...
I don't know that they ever arrested anybody with that tower. I did 2 of them, and I don't know if they ever arrested anybody with those instead. I certainly never heard of it or anything. I think it literally was just to terrorize people.
Well, we've only seen it in Seattle at big events or something, I think.
Yeah, I tried to do some research on this, and it was kind of hard to find. I found a piece from a couple years ago saying that the force had acquired 1 or 2. I think that was maybe from 2017. So these are for Seattle, they're relatively new, and their deployment is certainly not broad. I've never seen one anywhere in, like, downtown North. I've never seen one.
Well, they're not going to put one up in
Queen Anne,
or
Fremont, Magnolia. No.
Yeah, they used to use it for crowd control. They put it behind second base at certain Mariners games, but like that's, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it sort of gives up the ghost a little bit when you think about where they place them, and it will never be in Queen Anne, Magnolia, Laurelhurst, or anything like that.
Well, because
it'll always be in these areas that are gentrifying. Yeah.
Even if there was some legitimate reason to do, which does not exist anywhere, but like Queen Anne homeowners would complain en masse on the basis of aesthetics alone.
Oh yeah,
like not of the like. We're being oppressed by the boot of the state. The police would know to be like, this thing is an eyesore. Mm-hmm. Get it out of my goddamn sight.
It would block some condo's view of the water, so it gets shut down right there. But
yeah, but just throwing it up in your local Safeway parking lot, a community like that just does not have the same standing to deter that from happening in the first place. Who know? Well, it remains to be seen whether to do anything about it. Now that it has happened. And what's the plan with that? That it's just there forever? Like
I think that was the plan, but they took it down.
They did take it down.
They took it down like a couple of days, or after a day or 2 days, something like that. They took it down fairly quickly, I think people in Seattle weren't quite ready for that level of like hostile architecture.
Well, you know what?
But
the cops here
probably close.
This is emblematic of our politics generally. And that's the cops here are on the bleeding edge. They are like ahead of the curve. They know they smell. They can tell which way the wind is blowing. They are well ahead of the rest of Seattle on the way America is sliding into fascism. They can see it coming down the pike and they're ready.
Well, I mean, it would be interesting to go back and reread, like Mike Davis' City of Quartz, in retrospect, thinking about Seattle. She was writing about LA gentrifying in the 90s, or in the 80s, actually, late 80s. But, him talking about the physical remaking of the city, right, to make it more hostile to the poor. And, the putting in additional cameras, fencing off, like, underneath bridges so you can't sleep under a bridge, which we certainly have started doing here, right? The creation of, I guess they were coined in LA as bum-proof benches.
Right.
So, which we have everywhere now, where you can't lay across the bench because it has some sort of, thing.
Oh, it has an armrest.
Yeah, or it has that rolly one that you get sometimes at the bus stop so you can't get on it without falling off,
Yep.
That kind of stuff, just to make it as, like, hostile as human possible. I mean, LA really... led the charge on that, but I mean, but everything they did, we have.
It's worked in LA where they do not have a homeless problem.
Yeah. LA famously free of the homeless, which everybody who's been there will remember.
Yeah.
I saw the ultimate. I had a photo of it somewhere. It was the ultimate piece of like hostile architecture in LA. Where it was this giant set of condos that was actually like had a walled-in garden on it. Yeah. And they had these windows at the bottom that had these big advertisements for people to like buy in, right? There was like, white women doing yoga and stuff and people sitting in the bench in the walled-off garden. And the sill of the window, which was like brick and maybe came out like 1.5 feet, they put these spikes on it so that you couldn't sit down on the windowsill or anything like that. Like, right? And then the pictures of them doing yoga right behind them. Yeah. So,
Jesus.
I thought that was a beautiful photo.
Oh my God.
That's horrendous. I was trying to find a quote that I saw on Twitter where someone alleged, I thought it was our friend Bernard, that there was a beating in the Safeway.
Bernard did bring that up, but Alex at Bezos Town, he looked. It was a different Safeway, actually. So it was actually unrelated. But let's assume there's been a crime at some time in the vicinity of this Safeway. God knows there's been shoplifting, and God bless those brave souls. But I mean, the point is really like this is the city we live in.
The progressive utopia.
Yeah, this is the future. Seattle is ahead of the curve on, like, the neoliberal turn to fucking techno-futuristic fascism.
When it is the like liberal dream too, like when people like sort of mock like some liberal identity politics or stuff too. I mean, this is kind of like the joke they're making, which is, yeah, everything's great in Seattle if you have $1 million.
Yeah.
If you don't, well, it's gonna get real fucking hard for you, right?
Yeah.
You know, like it's great to be gay or trans if you're rich. If you're not, well, it might get a lot tougher for you, bud. You know. And I think that is kind of what that dream was of the Obama era of like, you know, a perfectly representative ruling class and everybody else in some form of prison labor. But,
I mean that's Seattle right there. Like,
but I think that's where the myths of like left-leaning Seattle seem to come from. That and far off memories of, I guess, the general strike or something. Although nobody who grew up here seems to know that the general strike happened.
No,
Yeah.
no, nobody knows that.
Yeah, very esoteric.
No, that's that's an interesting thing that we haven't necessarily dived into is the origins of the progressive Seattle myth. Because I'm thinking about it now, and nothing actually comes to my head immediately.
I think it's fairly new because, you know, being a kid who came of age in the grunge era, it was a middle school at the height of grunge. I remember watching many documentaries about grunge Seattle and stuff, and it was always depicted Seattle as being like a rough working class town and all this kind of shit. Like, certainly the image
that
of
was
today
the end of that period,
is exactly the opposite, right? So this idea of kind of this techno liberal futurist city,
so
it's got to be like only 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a guess and say it is a combination of two things: being being the second San Francisco, the second gay city in America, in its own opinion, anyway, to whatever degree that's true. You know, having the sort of rich cultural, like, LGBT sort of culture of Capitol Hill back, you know, when that was a unique thing in an American city, relatively speaking, and the tech boom that in the because that just seems so like you want to go, yeah, but connect the dots to make that make any sense, right? Because it doesn't. But in the sort of basic lib imagination, these are people who believe in, who have a Whig concept of history, which is to say progress.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So all the technological innovation doesn't even have to be sold to people who think that way as evidence of total societal growth and progress towards something better. It is built into their worldview of yeah, well, this is we're you know, this is where Windows, the operating system, comes from. So obvious that. I mean, you know, this is we're at the cutting edge of the future of the world, which means the best possible world, the future we always dreamed of living in. Those two things go together hand in hand. If you have this liberal concept of history, this Whig idea of progress, if you just take that as your worldview and your analysis, that, it's a way of not thinking about any actual connections, but it is how a lot of people think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think those two things are pretty core. I know we say it a lot, but this is listen liberal too, in a nutshell, because you have the identity representational political side of things, right? Social justice, which liberals are super big into, not knocking social justice, but just
not actually having any social justice, but certainly
the concept
about it.
is
the
very
concept in
appealing
its
to them.
vaguest terms,
And then the professional class, the rise of the professional, and then as you just touched on, the fact that these jobs, and we'll hear it when we do our next bit, but you'll hear Mayor Jenny Durkin talk about this a lot, that these are the jobs of the future.
Yeah.
The jobs of the future are here. So this is part of that STEM myth of progress.
Yeah, but that implicit in that proclamation or in that sort of celebration is that the future is better than the now or the past. The past, back when people were dumb.
Yeah.
You know? And the future, back when, when people will be better and enlightened. Without any input other than just, how fast it's happening.
It's the neoliberal optimism.
Yeah, that's what you can... All you can do is, how fast are we getting to the future where I am? It's not that we're getting there or not, or whether the future will be bad or good. It's like, how fast are we getting there right here where I am? And here in Seattle, we're getting to the future pretty fast. And the thing is, the future fucking blows. Because the future is Foucault's panopticon, like, fully realized by technology, like in every sense. Whether you buy completely his total analysis of that or whatever, that's another story. But the surveillance state,
sure,
as the like structure of society.
If you want to apply like that Cold War fucking nonsense term totalitarianism to anything,
yeah.
It's the modern United States. Like, the idea that you, like, act without having to be forced because you know, like, you're being watched. You know, like, it's so beaten into you that you're, like, you know, well aware, right? And, you know, I mean, this is the closest I've ever come to, like, actually looking like any of that, where people, you know, have to obey a leader even though they might not even know it. It's just in their hearts, right? But, yeah, I mean...
Without any skepticism, you know?
Yeah, you know? I mean, how else could we have, like, Donald Trump running against Hillary Clinton and nobody, like and the whole society just melt down into, like, this is the most insane fucking choice that's ever existed. But,
I don't claim to be, like, an expert on the Soviet Union, but my general impression from, you know, what I do know, what reading I have done, is that even, like, in the, say, you know, the Stalinist period that was very repressive, and the late period, the gerontocracy period, where everything was breaking down. At any stage of that, whatever fear people had during the Stalinist period or resignation during the late period, at no point was everyone in the Soviet Union bought into it, like, unskeptically, you know, sure. Right? They're utterly skeptical as a society for the entire course of the Soviet Union.
And even
here...
Oh, yeah.
We buy into our bullshit. Like, we eat it up.
And, you know, what the, you know, political scientists who, like, argued about this shit, like, you know, even though they never had a very good definition of totalitarianism, I mean, the basics of it was, like, the state reaching into, like, every aspect of your life. The thing is, like, the Soviet Union, like, the state was, like, very weak outside of, like, a few major city centers and things like that, and it might be repressive, but it did not have the sort of reach that, like, the American surveillance state has. I mean, it truly is astonishing that, you know, every purchase habit that you have is fully recorded. Most of your movements during the day are fully recorded.
Remember, like...
Think about the power your employer has over you. I mean, just, like, every part of your life is mediated by somebody else. You know, tells you, you know, what you could do. Until you absorb it, right? And then it just becomes how you live, right? You're just a fish in the ocean, then.
And we get more and more inured to it all the time. I remember,
But that's just different than just being repressive, right? Like, I mean, this is a way more fucking out there, like...
right, because we've eaten it up and we've internalized it. And I remember like when people gave a shit about the Patriot Act, or a few people did, like, it was like, no, but don't you get it? Like, you could get on a list because of the library books you checked out.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, I'm doing a thing, so obviously it's on a list somewhere. It's like part of, it's data. That's valuable data. It's just, it's just, you know, otherwise it's just sitting around. I mean, if the government and corporations are not using that data, that's just like leaving like money or intelligence on the table, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's truly astonishing, like, how quickly it happened and how, I mean, nobody really did care. I mean, it's you know, in New York in the early 80s, just because I'm writing this article on this, I know all this dumb stuff now, but in New York in the early 80s in Brooklyn, they tried to install metal detectors in this high school in Brooklyn, and the kids fucking rioted. And they, like, destroyed the metal detectors. They threw all the shit out of the fucking school. A middle school next door actually ran out into the streets, too, just in, like, solidarity. Like,
Hell yeah.
But, you know, now, you know, you get lots of cases where the parents, like, demand there's no record of violence in the school, but they demand the metal detectors be there, right? You know, I mean, and that's a difference in mindset, right? Of, you know, one, like, we're not going to accept this, you know, that you're beginning from the idea that we're criminals and have to be monitored. Like, we're not going to accept that because we know that the next stage is jail to, you know, now, like, this is just the beginning, right? Well, that we begin with the fact of, like, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you have nothing to be worried about. Which is a bizarre faith in the American legal system that I just can't share.
Absolutely unfounded.
Well, it comes from never experiencing never having to participate in that system. Of course, you're gonna have faith in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just had two thoughts. One thing that I think is funny about the Patriot Act is so far it seems like all we've been able to do is convince like slow teenagers to do bomb plots that we then foil.
Right.
Yeah.
The FBI's like bread and butter.
Yeah. And then the second thing that you were touching on, Brian, it reminds me so much of like this managerial mindset and specifically like risk mitigation. And I was just thinking of active shooter drills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The liberal response now is to just the status quo, no matter how horrible or good, that just like is. Yeah. That's static. Yeah. You can't change that. You just have to adapt to it. So again, like I'm sure the impulse there was, well,
you have to tweak.
Yeah, there's a possibility that guns or some weapons could get into a school, so we have to have these metal detectors. It's just a fact of life, and the same thing can be said about active shooting drills. Instead of trying to do something systemic and push back on that specific thing.
Well, life getting like better in any way for the majority of people is viewed as impossible. So everything now is about risk assessment and I mean the interesting thing about that is that all the like I had to read this awful like pamphlet or it's actually a special issue of Police Magazine about school protecting schools.
Brian subscribes to
religiously, and that's the language they use as they talk about like we go into a school and they're like, well, we don't have any problems. Like, well, think about this. What if you did?
That's like fucking Owen Wilson in the Royal Tenenbaums when he imagines.
We all know
Custer
died at Little Bighorn.
No, you're totally right. It's like history nerd shit. What if he did it?
But did you see that active shooting drill where they were literally executing?
Oh yeah, the teachers. That's in Indiana.
And it's like, what the fuck
with
kind
actual,
of preparation
like,
is that?
of some
They
kind?
were shooting them with like airsoft guns in the back of the head, blindfolded.
It's
like, what?
And telling him not to tell anybody what happened. Yeah.
What are you preparing for? Your own death?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think is what they would explain, but like it's absolutely crazy. And I mean, and again, think about like in that same issue of Police Magazine, of course, it's like 80% ads trying to sell shit to schools.
Yeah.
And one of it was God, I wish I remember what it was called, but it was this metal shield that you would put next to the fire extinguisher, like in the hallways, and then if there was an active shooter, a teacher would grab it like fucking Captain America and I guess charge the fucking active shooter, like throw it at him. I don't know. But the God saying that is, if you were a parent and walked into school and saw that, wouldn't you be like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
No,
like,
I don't think you would.
It's fucking crazy.
I would, but I don't think most people would. I'm picturing like those teachers who got shot in the back of the head. I'm picturing like their like performance review with the principal. It's like, listen, your standardized test scores are down in your classes, but on the other hand, you died with honor. you acquitted yourself well in the no-win scenario there. You held your bowels and you never lost your school spirit.
Well, and there was this classic movie of, I believe, 1990 is when it came out, called Class of 1999. And it takes place in a future Seattle.
Oh, perfect.
Where, I mean, this, by the way, we're talking about, like, images of Seattle or whatever. This, in their visions from 1990, Seattle was going to be this, like, burning husk of just fires everywhere. And the kids rule the streets and the schools with their various gangs.
Hell yeah.
And so the military, in order to resolve the issue...
Why do they go to school?
Okay, like, best not to ask too many questions.
Yeah.
The best is, there's still nerds in the school. Like there's still, like, kids, like, beating, like, fucking nerd. Like, who are like, oh, I just want to learn. Like, but anyways, so the military makes a covert deal with the principal to place these new substitute teachers in the high school who turn out to be like Terminator robots. Like Pam Grier is one of them, and like her arm opens up and it's like a rocket launcher that she like rocket launches the bad kids with. And anyways, but like that's the future of schools. Like we're just gonna have Pam Grier robots rocket launching the fucking kids like across the whole.
Yeah, or they're all gonna go to school at home, and we're gonna have those robots. Have you seen the robots that have an iPad for a face.
Yeah.
And then they
They walk around the office. Yeah.
Yeah.
For your distance day or whatever. Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, so the police rule. Did we have anything else to say about how awesome they
Sounds
are?
like things are going good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to sum it up, like what you were saying about this being the status quo is like that's important to understand about like managerial liberalism. That they can only see the status quo. They're dedicated to preserving the status quo by whatever way they defend that. And because they're fucking managers, which means they're really at their core, they're just about justifying their job, and their job is in the order of the status quo. I mean, so that's all we can do. It's why it seems like nothing can change. It's because that's how those people think, which is why they gotta go.
Yeah.
They can't. That's why you can have all these abuses by cops, and the solutions are, well, like let's get cops together with people from the community so that we can see that we're all really the same, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Blue lives really do matter.
Yeah, like let's promote understanding, right?
Yeah.
Like no systematic critique, no understanding that policing needs to be abolished and go away completely because it's fundamentally evil.
Well, and anything bad that happens is clearly just an accident, right? And so no need to look at all the things that made that bad thing happen, right? Like, you don't need to look at like any of the things that came together to make that thing happen.
Yeah.
Like, it always is shocking to me because you're talking about how you just saw another video of like a school police officer hitting a kid.
Yeah.
And it always shocks me when these videos come out. They're like, oh, that cop was a real mean guy. We need to we need to make the cops nicer in the schools. It's like, or just not have them there. Like, I mean, that is what caused the incident, was the fact that there was like a police officer coming into contact with a child, which he never should have in the first place.
Because everything about policing, everything they're trained, the reasons they told to exist, the reasons we think they exist, are absolutely just 100% tools of oppression and nothing else. So that's all you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, they're the organized violence of the state. So if you put them in a room full of children, you have to expect those children are going to get some violence.
Yeah.
And, to act surprised every time it happens is just the craziest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts.
All right. Well, we love cops.
We love cops. And we
love our cops.
Have you heard
None of us here are cops. We are not cops.
I asked everybody in this room, and because I asked them, they have to tell me, and they all said no.
True.
So
yep, I said no because I would have to tell him if I was a cop.
Each one of us asked the person to our left, so we know.
To reiterate, I said no. I am not a cop because I would have to be honest if I asked that question. Not a cop.
Yeah, you guys also made me smoke weed, which I couldn't do if I was a cop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just look like a cop, but
everybody in here does have real tight crew cuts, sweet mustaches, and we're all in aviators right now. It's very dark in here, but we still have our aviators on.
Yeah.
Was it my tactical vest that was the giveaway? So, moving on to more cool, managerial, awesome, techno-utopian dreamscapes.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hit me.
We finally heard from our high mages from the Innovation Advisory Council.
The Innovation Advisory Citadel.
Yeah, some of their magic trickled down through the rain or something, and we got our first glimpse.
How many days had it been?
Over 200. Well, so here's the thing. If you didn't know this, a while ago, approximately 300 days ago, we created a website to track whether or not these very same arcane users of magic had finished their ritual and had innovated. And, okay, so it's been 256 days since the foundation. and 207 days since their first meeting. That's as of right now.
The first meeting was like the gala, right? The
Yeah.
hey, look, everybody.
Yeah.
This exists with the like where Jenny was wearing like the NASCAR like suit with all the brands on it,
Yeah.
and like
she had she had the champagne and the baseball hat.
Yeah. That ruled. So that was the meeting was like the celebration of the christening of the Ted Bundy conference room, right?
Yeah.
Well, and when you start that strong, you build a lot of anticipation for what's coming next because I looked at that jacket and I'm just like, we got some bright ideas.
Bated breath. Everyone in the city's been waiting for 257 days or whatever.
Yeah, this was
hundreds have died suffocating.
Some days of thunder shit. But I think it's important to note that when they kind of showed us when they met in the Ted Bundy room, we got some Emperor wearing no clothes moments of people not really understanding anything about any of the problems that they were supposed to innovate for in.
Right. So this was Jenny.
Not
she literally said like
Yeah.
like the mission statement or whatever was like, first identify the problems.
Yeah. Right.
Then innovate solutions. Because, like, it's really confusing what the problems are. Day one mindset.
Exactly. Day one mindset.
I was just hoping that 10 years down the road they would release a report that's like, Seattle has a housing problem.
We crunched the numbers, and here's what the computer spit out.
You see,
no, it's
it
like
works
war
by
games.
input and output.
The only winning move is not to house a homeless person. So they have a site now, which I don't believe they did before. And it has this really cool little thing that says the Innovation Advisory Council, or IAC, which for me drives me nuts because I can only think of UAC, which was the evil corporation in Doom. Was launched on August 2nd, 2018 by way of an executive order signed by Mayor Durkin. And if you're not familiar with Doom, the whole concept of that is this corporation accidentally opens a portal to hell. So
innovation!
Sort of think about that when you're thinking about the IAC. It includes a range of our region's most innovative companies committed to sharing insights and expertise with the city capitalized, which is sort of an interesting stylistic choice, as the city develops data-driven technological approaches to addressing our priority areas of homelessness, affordability, and delivery of basic services. So those must have been the problems that they identified initially. Because certainly they've been hard at work.
So we've been here all this time. We've been casting aspersions on their diligence these 257 days, where it turns out they were hard at work identifying those problems. So that's egg on our face.
Oh, totally. Well,
don't you feel silly now?
As non-practitioners of magic,
of innovation.
Exactly. We can only sit by and see what's going on. So the IAC is more than a council. It is a partnership between local technology talent and civic leaders to foster innovative thinking in the city of Seattle. So everyone has their thinking caps on now, thanks to the IAC. So the big news, and this was...
I think the strap is loose on my thinking cap. Can you help me with
that? Yeah, the electrodes, I don't know if they're connected to my temples. Let's see, seven projects emerged. And
whoa,
that's
hard at work.
Let's
hear it.
I can tell, this was the announcement.
To solve each of the deadly sins.
Yeah,
very religious.
Have you seen Seven? Are you ready for these? You ready? Okay. So the first one is earthquake early warning.
Fuck, dude. Number one problem in the city.
What?
Number one problem in the city.
Well, if you like number one, you're going to like number two.
Wait. So this is the announcement for what? Like,
these are the current IAC projects. These are the spells that are being cast as we speak.
I mean, earthquake early warning systems exist, right?
No.
But not by innovators, probably by, like, government scientists or academics or something.
People who study earthquakes.
Not by a crack team of Amazonians.
There's a lot of talk about the potential for earthquake early warning by using, like,
well, how early
this very sophisticated, quote, machine learning to churn a bunch of all the seismic data over the last whatever to possibly in the future predict earthquakes by 30 seconds.
Do you?
That's real. I'm serious.
No, I know.
Do you remember in the first month of the Trump administration when or somebody in the Defense Department accidentally sent incoming missiles early warning to Hawaii? That is all that earthquake early warning system is going to be. It's just
seriously.
incoming missiles just all
Right,
every
because
week,
it will have to
you
be
know?
because it will have to be 100% automated. Because right now, because this does not exist, you cannot predict an earthquake, except statistically by saying sometime in the next 500 years. That's not a very
good enough for me.
But actual warning, the ones the top scientists, who by the way I've actually talked to recently on this subject, due to my career, I was working on a show that was talking about this.
Oh damn.
So I talked to some guys at the University of Washington about this exactly. The current shit they are working on, the cutting edge, with people across the world and the country, is being able to someday, using these machine learning technologies, they're working on software that they can and systems that they can deploy to predict by 30 seconds. So that you get a buzz on your phone that says earthquake, take cover. So you get under a desk, or you get in a doorway or something. That's it.
Shelter in place.
I would have to have my phone in my hand to see a text 30 seconds.
I know. That's the future we're talking about. So that's great. Whatever.
Cool. Also,
Number
one problem in Seattle always has been.
Well, maybe they're building. Maybe this is a this is a countdown. This is
Oh, maybe we should go. This is number 7.
Number 7.
I'm just gonna tell you this is this is not really a countdown. But the folks working on this are the Office of Emergency Management, Amazon Web Services, and Twitter, apparently.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm glad Twitter's on the case. if you're going to be warned by anybody, it's definitely Twitter. Famous for its helpfulness.
It's going to be in Seattle Moments.
Yeah, it's going to be a trending topic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is Earthquake Damage Assessment. Oh, yeah.
Wait, what? We're still on earthquakes?
Yes.
I love these guys just imagine that earthquakes is the number one danger.
They all read that New Yorker.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah. That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is what... Oh my god. Okay, so seriously, number 2 is still...
Yes, still earthquakes.
So if an earthquake happens... Oh my god. Oh my fucking Christ.
The Earthquake Damage Assessment Project focuses on improving the city's ability to obtain and analyze damage assessment information after an earthquake event by determining how to pull information from multiple sources into a single system for damage information. So that, to me, reads like somebody's CV also, by the way.
Yeah. This is just some fucking insurance bullshit.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah, you know how you get a damage estimate? The insurance company comes out on the ground, boots on the ground, because they're not going to take the word of some algorithm. And they're going to look at everything, and they're going to tell you exactly what it is.
Yeah, the algorithm didn't properly deny all those claims.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
so, what is... Oh, my God.
It's going to be fucking beautiful. These are all about earthquakes. I'm going to fucking die if it's all about
I'm going to spoil it and say they're not.
But, tell me tsunamis get involved.
So this was mostly the same folks, and this is where we turn away from earthquakes. So, number 3 is... Homelessness Data Model. Oh, yeah.
Give me a dashboard. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're going to model... I'm picturing, a big, a command center that has, a massive screen that just, little dots of every homeless person where they're congregating. So that's where you can send the sweep teams or just a scud.
Well, now that you've tagged them with the Samaritan, time to bag them by finding them on the fucking...
Yeah, I mean, they're going to innovate that concept of the dog tag you wear around your neck and make it subcutaneous any minute now.
I haven't read the overview yet, but I was thinking this was probably more like imagining a behavioral model like the one from Hypernormalization, that like supercomputer in Wenatchee. So they're like trying to
BlackRock Capital, right?
Yeah, they're trying to build a sophisticated algorithm.
Risk aversion algorithm.
Yeah, to like model homeless behavior.
No, they're gonna like the perfect computerized homeless guy.
Yeah,
like, and,
exactly. It'll be this Tamagotchi for the city that they try to like run simulations on to solve the problem.
Oh, the like how to. Like, they'll run intervention simulations.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
And they'll be like, this one didn't work.
Oh man, arresting him and putting him in prison. Well, the results are mixed. On the one hand, his future outlook is not very bright. On the other hand, the simulation indicates he is no longer on the streets and visible. So
we did it. We solved homelessness.
Input and output, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. So this one is reporting on homeless investments. So that should set off some alarm bells in your brain.
Our feet, like, is the stock market going after homeless people?
Yeah, they're looking for all the 401ks out on the street.
And like, have you thought about day trading?
Yeah, can I get options?
E-Trade or whatever? Like,
well, that classic look into spending where everything's too much unless it's jail, in which case it's just the right amount.
Often takes weeks to manually update spreadsheets, reconcile, and validate before analysis even begins. So before I finish reading the rest of this again is like very computer science CV, and also the like tech worker's dream of eliminating human error from a system.
No, eliminating human labor.
Well, it's in scare quotes.
Oh, that's the
for me saying it.
No, that's so basically just God forbid someone does data entry in the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Someone is paid to do that by the city.
If someone gets a micro internship to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The University of Washington Information School capstone course is working with Seattle Human Services Department, Amazon, and Tableau to create a data model solution that will automate a manual process, there you go, and create a connection between input data and business visualizations.
So I don't even know what that means. I fucking hate it. So first of all, I fucking hate everything.
Do you like
that they
graphs?
Said.
All you're talking. So it's just basic a next generation of back end software for the city to eliminate a few more positions. That's okay. Wow, innovation. You could have. I mean, there are tons of companies ready to sell any city products like this. You know, they're on. You can contract them anytime. You don't need to gather all the geniuses in the room. Like, there are people wanting to sell you this all the time.
Yeah, one of them is Tableau, who's working on this.
They have something to sell you.
Yeah.
Well, the funny part is I love all these rich people getting around and being like, oh, you know what's going to help solve homelessness? Raising the unemployment rate.
Automating jobs.
Yeah, make sure less people have work. Especially if they buy our software.
Does it explain in here yet? Because this is our big, skepticism when this originally first came around, was like, are they going to give these services to the city?
Doesn't say. It kind of feels like it's a group project pageant contest, and everyone's going to be a winner.
But eventually, in the end, it's going to. These projects will all end up in 7 separate contracts that the city buys from probably joint partnerships.
Oh yeah. They're selling this shit.
Yeah, this is just a way to sell products to the city in a joint venture that benefits all of them.
Yeah, because these are all pretty easily deliverable.
And then internally, so they do it at this big pageant, song and dance, and they say these 3 companies are working on this project. They ultimately internally talk to themselves and they say, okay, we'll consult it. You build this one. With this, we'll split the money, whatever, but eventually it's what's presented at the end. I'm sure it's going to be a contract that the city buys from these people.
Yeah, well, Tableau already has a contract with someone. I wish I could. GeekWire did a piece on this, and we have a tweet about it. It pissed me off. I can't remember what city, but it is basically just a dashboard.
Well, I'm sure whatever these company suggestions are is something they already have
Yeah.
right, to sell them, right? Like a product that's ready to go. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the funny thing about the innovation is like, dude, these are just salesmen just selling you shit. Like,
and this is a lot of tarted up language for just basically back-end software.
Well, it's gluing a back-end software to a Tableau.
Nerd!
Well, okay, fine.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, no, we're clearly going to drop millions of dollars on some company to reinvent The Sims. And then like somebody just to make a self-filling fucking Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure, anybody can do.
That's pretty rudimentary. But we needed the big geniuses at AWS.
Oh, fuck, I'm glad they got together.
Not AWS, just Amazon, Tableau, and UW Capstone projects. So the next one, are you ready for this one? So we already talked policing, we've already talked proto-fascist, crypto-fascist. So the next one is Nav Team 2.0.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
Everybody gets stun batons.
So
wow, so they're like we have the technology to rebuild the Nav team for $6 million.
Yeah, it's weird. They've got a picture here, and it's just all those robots from RoboCop.
Oh my god.
So the project overview. The Nav App 2.0 project will improve the ability for the the navigation team to better collaborate efforts through data and connecting unsheltered individuals with existing services, so this is homely, and create faster resolutions to hazardous situations.
Yeah. I feel like we're just buying the Nav team more showers. Like, this is basically all we're doing.
Probably.
Jesus Christ.
This effort will also ensure better transparency with more efficient and timely reporting for evaluating navigation team performance and program continuous improvement. So this is like an HR software to like.
Well, it sounds like it's an app as well for the Nav team themselves to be like.
You gotta hit.
Well, it is
your
homely. It's like what we said. It's like
Cool
well, this is the version. This is the back end version for the Nav team themselves to like, so that they don't have to. Again, it's just automation. It's just cutting down on the people to do, because it's like, okay, I have this homeless person. I need to know, where do I send him? Harbor Island or McNeil Island? I'd have to make a call with my cell phone to like the dispatch center and find out, and then I'd have to put him on. Then this I can just like scan his barcode with my camera app, and it'll spit out through the supercomputer calculations, it'll spit out exactly what prison he should be sent to.
Yeah, what prison island has room right now? Right?
Yeah,
it's like
in all of that gobbledygook. I mean, it's all shit that I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Doesn't matter.
You would.
Nav
Honestly.
team performance, that's not going to solve our homeless
problem.
problem.
You gotta hit your KPIs. I mean, you've committed to detaining or liquidating like 25 homeless people every sweep. So,
and again, I mean, if you were so concerned about urban poverty, maybe you would just hire more people for the nav teams, like, you know.
Yeah, which they did.
Eliminate homelessness through a massive nav team. Like
that's what they did. They hired more cops, I think.
Oh no, not those people. They have enough jobs.
Well, like, gosh, here's a weird novel idea. Yeah, why don't we just hire the homeless people to solve the homeless problem? How, you ask? By hiring them.
Boom.
I'm a genius.
So Microsoft is working on this. Seattle IT, Seattle Public Utilities, Seattle Fire Department, Innovation and Performance, I don't know what that is, Seattle Human Service Department, and Human Services Department. So
the Seattle Department of Innovation and Performance is the precursor to the Seattle Innovation Council that was edged out in an internal bureaucratic like blood feud. Yeah. So.
All right, so we're at number 5.
Oh fuck!
So excited.
It's the affordability portal.
What does that mean?
Just absolute
Wait.
fucking gibberish.
This is a portal to another dimension where Seattle is
No,
affordable?
they built the hell portal. Just way more affordable there.
We did it on purpose this time.
The demons don't have currency. I was thinking maybe it was more like, you know those Target scanners, so you can see a price, but it's like, it tells you if you can afford it. Like,
Hey, that's
like,
easy to program. It's just always no.
Oh yeah, if an app for your phone, it's like Yelp where you like look at a map, but it's like it tells you just on a red zone of like in a heat map of like you cannot afford to be here right now.
Yeah, you actually have to
fucking leave now, because not only can you not like even you can't afford to take a shit or get a coffee in this neighborhood, but like someone's gonna notice that you can't, and you know that's gonna be a problem.
Navigation team has been.
Yes, see our earlier
Homely.
sketch on Homely.
That was our pitch to Jenny Dirk. I thought we'd
for the Innovation Council.
Get a phone call, you know.
Yeah.
The Affordability Portal seeks to create an online information and screening tool to connect individuals and families to City of Seattle benefit programs and services that can lower their cost of living. The portal will support both benefit seekers and the professional and informal navigators, such as caseworkers and family members who support them.
So it's a website.
Yes.
It's a website where you fill out like endless forms and submit endless documents about your employment, your income, your assets, your whole family, all this to test your means, and then it spits out what
you qualify for, which is
benefits you qualify for, which are probably nothing anyway. Because again, the problem is that there aren't enough benefits to go around, so you have to means test them, because that's how we and you need an efficient way of doing that, because we don't just give benefits to people who need them and not worry about the tiny amount of waste.
No, you have to earn it.
Yeah.
Expedia's on this one. Tableau, F5, Innovation and Performance.
Well, fucking Expedia and its shit fucking websites involved. I'm sure it's gonna go great.
Yeah, so that rocks. And up next,
it's just like you put in your income and like, and your family. You're like, oh, we're starving.
Would you like to look at hotels? In the
no. It books you a Greyhound bus out of the city.
Yeah.
We're using Expedia's innovative technology.
For the lowest fare.
You qualify for these benefits via bus token.
Mm-hmm. For these ways out of the city.
Yeah.
Bindle sack.
Yeah, it points you to the rail lines and gives you a tutorial on how to ride the cables under the cars.
All right, so the next one is you're just gonna love this. Everyone at home, you're gonna love this.
God, I hope it's about earthquakes.
It is the Youth Opportunity Portal.
Another website, but for kids.
Do you hate this all?
Hell yeah!
That's where young kids can meet up with eager adults.
Okay, so let me just
friend finder.
Let me just preempt this here. This is a website much like the previous portal where you type in your economic status to test your means that you are in need of help, and then your GPA and you write a little essay and you prove that you among the massive unwashed poor. Mm-hmm. You are the upper crust, the smartest, the hardest working of those poor kids who are like not having a childhood or getting a good education, and you are selected thus to be the exemplar of society's widespread opportunity.
Could you imagine how much better the 80s would have been if, like, Edward James Olmos was just like, how do I reach those kids? And they just gave him this youth portal. Like, oh, this youth portal.
Well, I'll have them fill out these online forms.
All I had to do is fill out these 52 documents.
And then someone on doing a freemium or what are the internships again?
The micro
internships will read your essay and give it a grade.
Well, didn't conjugate properly. It's like that kid's dying poor.
Well, yeah, it feels like it's like you're getting drafted to the majors. It's like you're entering the labor force early. Good for you. Hell yeah!
That'd be great. Right. One of the questions is like, how much weight do you think you can lift, like regularly?
Right. Because it has to tell, because of our sort of liberal veneer on everything. It will have to give everyone some kind of positive answer, right? So only a certain number of kids are even gonna get to this portal, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you do, yeah, it is gonna be like, you know what? We don't think high school is right for you. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. So one's literally just gonna be like, are your hands like thin and nimble and can fit in machinery? Easily into machinery.
Okay, so let's hear it in their own words. The Youth Opportunity Portal seeks to create a central online website to youth programs with a centralized application, making it easy for young people ages 12 to 24 to access jobs and skill-building opportunities, to develop those skills over time, and to plan for an economically secure and personally empowering career.
Wait.
I frequently thought.
Break down that sentence, though. Like, if you go... It's the first thing is what it is.
Yeah.
And then the rest of that bullshit is just...
What they hope
the knock-on
might do.
effects of what they're saying. Yeah, because this thing we do here, it's going to cause all this shit.
Yeah.
So that just said nothing. It is just like, again, applying for scholarships.
I have frequently said that not enough 12-year-olds are working, so I actually approve of this one.
Yeah, it's a fucking scholarship aggregator for some, and it's a like a monster.com for kids.
Yeah.
Like for the rest, yeah.
Which is horrific because when you're 12, you really should not be thinking about a career. Why are we in such a rush to end force terminate your child?
Or getting on a website to see if you qualify for a dignified, like, things to make your human life slightly more dignified.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
a slightly better educational opportunities or something.
Yeah.
Like
A chance,
some programs you might qualify for or could be connected with, you know?
a chance to go to the off-world colonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This project aims to improve city programs by ensuring our youth programming is accessible, impactful, and relevant.
Okay, accessible, impactful, and relevant. The youth programming that all the youth want to do, that they're gonna that because we know this because we need to build a website that they go on and look. I'm a kid looking for youth programming. Let's see what youth programming is right for me. You know? Like
all the other kids are watching like fart videos on YouTube, but you are over there doing your youth programming.
Like if this shit had any merit or was like an actual like functional part of a community, they wouldn't need the fucking website.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. So for this one, I'm going to read a little bit.
Or if it was universal in any sense. Yeah. You wouldn't need to be paired up with some esoteric service or benefit or program. You know, you need to like... it's like, you know, you wouldn't... It's Match.com for your handout. You know, it's like you wouldn't need that if we just like made sure everyone had a dignified human fucking life.
Yeah, well, it's like a factory line where some crane hand picks you up and moves you to where you're gonna go, like some sick intervention.
Well, they dream of that sorting mechanism because all these guys are like, you know, fucking phrenologists and shit. So they dream of that sorting mechanism where like the laborers can be like separated from the thinkers and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, that is,
you know,
absolutely implied in managerial liberalism. Like, it's we need to raise the smartest ones out of poverty. Like, doesn't have any answer for everybody else. Like, no, the dumb shits are not covered in these.
Yeah,
in these programs.
Yeah.
You know?
So for this one, I'm going to read a little bit from the project background, which we didn't read from the others, which I think is maybe more in their own words. So they say, the project team will immediately work towards creating a web-based portal where young people can find programs based on their interests, skills, age, and use a single application to apply for the programs. Future functions we hope to add to the youth portal include access a jobs board with external youth employment and training opportunities, locate non-employment youth services in their area, create a profile with a resume and skills bank, and create education and employment plans using labor market data.
Oh my God.
Cool.
Please, sir, we're starving. Are there not websites? Are there not portals?
You can't see anything going wrong with this. This sounds like a fucking great plan.
Yeah, right.
Well, it sounds like a dumb fucking thing no one's going to use.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the ethic behind it is, again, yeah, like sorting the people out into youth employment opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually worse than I was thinking originally. It is what you were thinking.
It's awful.
Well,
I hate it.
And the one thing we know about 12 and 13-year-olds is they're exactly the same person that they will be later in life. So
yeah,
that's
totally.
the time to grab them and figure out this information.
Well, that's true if you're poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no growth into, there's no expanding your horizons and finding your true self when you're fucking destitute.
Yeah, you're not allowed to make mistakes if you're poor.
Well, and certainly if you're going to be a laborer in life, no need to teach them anything. That's for damn sure and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you needed to teach them how to not end up in prison. Beyond that, that's it.
Even that, you let them find out.
Yeah, yeah.
So can you guess who had a special hand in this one? I had a feeling.
Wait, okay.
Oh, that's the Bill Gates shit, I feel like. Oh, no.
I don't know.
I think it's the mayor's pet project because it says part of the project team is mayor's office policy team. So I think this one was a plant.
Dude,
yeah.
that's what we've been saying about Jenny all along. It's managerial liberalism. It's find the smartest kids, and the rest, I guess, put them to work. I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's no future for you if you're already.
Yeah.
It's too late. That ship sailed.
Yeah. The minds are good enough.
If you're not a genius that needs.
Yeah.
It's the argument like, think about all of those Einsteins who have lived in poverty and died that way.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck off. Think about all the people who have lived and died in poverty, okay? The liberals want to find the Einsteins. Full stop.
Yeah.
They want to find those people, raise them up, so that the elite can be from every possible background. And fuck everybody else. It's having a good elite.
Yeah.
A proper liberal elite. Not based on, your race, not based on the economic conditions you started life in, but based on merit. It's a meritocracy. And it's disgusting.
Cool.
It rocks. So we got one more.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
I can tell that Brian's really enjoying
now,
this.
Hang on, I gotta do my Casey Kasem here. Hang on. No, never mind. I can't get it. Cut this. I don't know.
Just take a clip from Saved by the Bell, put it in.
I used to do Casey Kasem.
That's okay. Probably no one that listens to our show knows who the fuck Casey Kasem is.
Hang on. So,
they would know him exclusively from Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell? Was he on Saved by the Bell?
Yeah! He always hosted the Sock Hops.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
He introduced the sprain.
Okay. I was first introduced to Casey Kasem on watching Scooby-Doo, but... Whatever. And other Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
You fucking
but
Casey Kasem gatekeeper.
He did the countdown. It was a countdown joke. It doesn't matter.
God damn it, Craig. It is affordable housing search.
Not gonna build any, but they will create a search engine that will tell you none is available.
Craigslist has the price
Yeah, that's
feature.
called Zillow. The affordable housing search is Zillow.
Fucking
or,
Pad Mapper, whatever. Like
Zillow, you say? Well, they might be on the project team.
Oh, whoa! So basically, it'll be a skin on their site. Yeah.
Imagine if you made like a Google search engine that like anytime, no matter what people searched, it just came back no results. Like that's like literally what they're building. It's just like
Case.
I love that you're so hung up on this.
Hi, I'm Casey Kasem. Hi, I'm
Casey Kasem was apparently like a civil rights like advocate and stuff too, and here we are just muddying his reputation.
I'm Casey Kasem. Welcome back. It's number 1 on the countdown. What was it called?
Affordable housing search.
Number 1 on the countdown on this week's countdown. Affordable housing search. I'm Casey Kasem.
Guys, you'll never believe this. Greg left for a second, and Casey Kasem came into the boat.
It rocked like he came back from the dead, right? Or is he just in a coma?
He's definitely dead. He's definitely dead.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Greg, you're back. You never guessed who came by.
No, I'm not. I'm still Casey Kasem.
Oh, shit.
Okay, boys, what's next?
Well, we were just gonna talk about what the affordable housing search tool is, if that's okay with you, Casey.
I'm here for it.
The Affordable Housing Search Tool project will create a centralized... That's like a bingo for tech nerds.
Yeah.
Like, a centralized way to locate available affordable housing. The search tool will also provide a listing platform for the Housing Connector. The Housing Connector is capitalized, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
the fuck is the
I think we're all aware. We're all aware of the Housing Connector.
Is that affiliated with the navigation
We all know
team?
about the Housing Connector.
Yeah, that's the court system is the Housing Connector. It connects you with a nice little house, out of McNeil Island.
Yeah. Specifically for people who are experiencing homelessness and seeking housing through the homelessness system.
That's what I've always thought. The homeless need more websites and apps.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just not wired enough.
Yeah. Jesus.
What do you think,
God, this city's
Casey?
awful.
It's just a matter of connecting people with housing. The housing is out there. You just have to find it.
Is Mr. Belding as weird as people say?
He's a creep. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my god.
So the project background for this one, I think we got to read. Community members looking for affordable homes in Seattle must now search for affordable housing on a property-by-property basis. The Affordable Housing Search Tool seeks to create an accessible and easy-to-use tool that will be used by property owners, social service providers, and community members seeking housing.
Well, they seem to think that people like find the price of housing by like knocking on people's doors. It's like people are the companies that are doing this already have the search engines that people are already using.
Again, it's like it's just selling products
What
that they already have. Yeah,
I mean,
like
what
how
a
can we get
fucking
another
joke.
dollar off this?
Again,
fucking
these
thing?
things exist. They're literally free to everyone in the world because
Yeah.
our housing is on a global market, by the way. Yeah, you can... Again, it's Craigslist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this one is very emblematic of something that we have laughed and talked about endlessly on the show, of innovation being incremental garbage.
Yeah.
Like, the innovation here is that you're making one site that sits in front of... I don't
You're
know.
centralizing.
Yeah, and that's not fucking innovation.
Yeah. Well, especially if, we know for a fact there is not enough. It's not like it's a question of is there enough for it. Like, it is a known fact there is not.
Yeah.
So why would putting the already non-existent stock in one place
like
improve anything?
to a certain extent, like, okay, you know what? To the extent that this is true, like, markets work, okay? For distributing goods to people who can afford them, okay? That's the thing, okay?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to innovate how to connect this information to people. People, that's what markets are for. So you don't have to centralize this shit, okay? It's there. People will find it. And it will be negotiated in currency. The problem is when you have so like they're just duplicating a function of the market here.
Yeah.
Okay? The
They're
problem is
consolidating exchanges.
Yeah.
Property exchanges.
But the problem is that we have a market, a totally free market, and only that for housing in this country and in this city, and that means that it's subject to the whims of capital investment and other things, and does not provide for people who don't have the fucking money. So the information, which is again duplicating a function of the market, this exchange of information isn't doing anybody any good.
But I can see it in one place.
You can see that you can't afford it in one place,
or that there's
not enough.
Yeah,
if it is,
yeah,
it's unclear.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
they're talking about this is like of actual public or subsidized housing.
I think that's what it is.
Of like from the various agencies, like connecting it together.
Though it is
So what?
unclear.
Again, all you're doing is really automating, right? Because it's like,
yeah, you're automating the difficulty of opening. Let's just say there are 5 housing properties.
or of
tabs
of,
to look.
of social workers.
Well, yeah.
Right? Like, because this is who's going to use the site ultimately is people. So they're going to have one portal to go to. Okay, so again, it's just backend. It's ultimately going to be backend software. Even if you can use it as a person, like really, you're going to have like most of the people. If they're going to get housing, they're probably going to have gone through some kind of like one-on-one interaction, and that person's going to get on their computer and go like, okay, what can I get you into? And oh my gosh, in their what effectively becomes their backend software in that situation, they only have to search once, theoretically. This efficiency frame is bullshit on all levels, but like it's really emblematic here because this is how we talk about. This is a very conservative frame that like we're just not spending the money correctly. It's not efficient. It's not efficient enough. There's no accountability, and this buys into that completely and says like we just need to like take the resources we have and allocate them in a more efficient manner. That's what all of this is talking about. Whether it's the educational things, finding the right kids to allocate these resources to. And the problem is, we're not allocating enough resources, and we're not allocating them to fucking everybody. And our system is allocating resources away from people.
Yeah.
Like, it's taking it out of their fucking hands and giving it to the rich. Like, this is quibbling over bullshit.
Yeah. Well, it's, arguing over the allocation of resources, like, where are we reaching peak efficiency? But, you could have a similar argument, like, around the head tax and say, well, maybe Amazon, if they have to pay this tax, needs to just allocate the resources better. But it never goes that direction.
Yeah, no,
right?
no.
Because this is all one way. This is just towards services.
Yeah.
Like, services to poor people
Right.
have to have
it's not
maximum absolute efficiency.
Exactly. That's the
Free
only place
handouts
efficiency is needed.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
We've talked at length about how Amazon in particular is not efficient at all. It's a massive boondoggle that's lost almost every division of which has routinely lost money forever.
Yeah.
But anyway, same with every company that's ever existed. But like,
and again,
they're not efficient.
There's no innovation there either. It's just a fucking store online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
But-
or imagine like the Mariners asking again for money for the stadium, like they always do, and being like, "Oh, you guys got to allocate your resources better. Maybe be something a shit team." but yeah, again, that doesn't matter. That doesn't count. That's a different thing.
Because it's
Right.
not because that would be talking about actual allocation of resources in society, but they won't. That you can't get there. So you just need to talk about in the status quo frame of this limited amount of money we have to operate city services. This status quo, what are the details of how efficiently we're doing that? And in managerial liberalism, efficiency is its own good. That's in a conservative worldview. Efficiency is its own independent good. It's like that is the highest order of progress is an efficient system, because baked into that conservative neoliberal worldview is that on a social level, resources will always be finite. This is a lie, but that is how they look at it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool,
So this rocked.
So basically, obviously, this is real egg on our face. We've just been all of our tasteless jokes made at the expense of the Innovation Advisory Council.
Yeah. All my innovation gone to waste.
Yeah, all that innovation you did on your internet website. Maybe, you know what? You should really send them your CV.
I should.
You're like, actually, that'd be funny. You're like, hey, look, I made this website. Can I work on your portal?
Yeah, I'm here for this gravy train.
Well, I never thought they would get that portal open to hell, but good on them.
Yeah. Cool. Great, guys.
So there was one more thing we were going to touch on before we conclude that is sort of thematically consistent with this whole
is it
charade.
Innovation Advisory Council Junior?
Yeah, exactly.
Spawn of
Spawn
or whatever.
Yeah. So I think maybe you found this,
Bride of
but
IAC.
You definitely mentioned it. So there's this tweet from Superintendent Denise Juneau.
The Seattle Public Schools?
Seattle Public Schools. And this was posted April 9th. You can find it on her Twitter, which is Seattle SUPT. And it says, great think tank meeting today with Assure Ride, Amazon, Hop Skip Drive, Uber, Lyft, Lime Bike about school transportation. We previously met with government, taxis, and buses. Families and educators next. We can solve big challenges in Seattle Public Schools. And then there's a photo of them in the actual Gary Ridgway room, which you rarely get a photo out of. And they're all next to some of his victims up on the projector smiling.
So this is so apparently Seattle Public Schools has their own Innovation Advisory Council on transportation.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to innovate a way to transport kids to and from school.
How are we going to do it?
Yeah, no city in the country's ever figured this out, so we need to innovate some sort of way to get the children. There was some sort of device that could get them from a central location, which is a school, to a home location elsewhere in the city.
What's funny is, we're not even, quote, busing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that's a real logistical, clusterfuck, getting kids from disparate areas, one side of town to the other. And Cities All Over America did that under court order to attempt to, in an ultimately now failed attempt to end school segregation. Though in some ways valiant attempt. And that's a logistical clusterfuck that was done because here's what you do: you pick kids up at a bus stop and you take them to the school. You know, well, what's the question here?
Well, I think Seattle
efficiency. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a race to the bottom. Who can get the kids from point A to point B for the cheapest cost? Can we throw them on an electric scooter?
Yeah.
You get in a lift, you get out halfway there, you get on a Lime Bike, you take
an automated bus, or instead of a bus,
it's an Uber.
For every one bus,
shared ride.
For every one, replace every one bus with 7 robo Ubers.
Yeah.
That then are they using swarm modeling technology and by analyzing the patterns of flocks of birds with supercomputers, we're going to find a way to get the kids to school without any human labor, so we can train them to function in a society that will never exist again. Because they will never have jobs, because we're racing toward automation for the sake of efficiency.
Did you hear about the kid portal? But yeah, it's this crazy situation where, literally, if this were, again, an old-timey movie, it would literally just be people from the tech industry going, how can we get a taste? We need a taste of the sweet, sweet kid transit, right? And because, what's more efficient than putting children on Ubers or Lime Bikes? It's a giant vehicle you can put 30 of them on at a time. This is fucking crazy. It's so dumb. But I think part of the problem is that Seattle does that weird thing where, kids apply to, what high school they want to go to and shit. Mm-hmm. And so they can go to a high school that's outside of their area, which I think was
kids. I didn't know that.
And I think that was to avoid busing. I'm almost positive that's why they did that to avoid a court order busing. Yeah, because miraculously we still managed to have the black school, right, and all the other schools, but now it's de facto and not de jure, right? But
That's everywhere now.
I think that's their problem. But as far as transportation, but as far as I know, the kids that are going from like a long distance,
they just take
they take the city buses, yeah, and they get a bus pass.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, it is more and pretty obvious too. Like, and it's what a lot of cities do. Like,
yeah.
You give the kids a fucking bus pass and they use public transit.
Well, or we pay to have them bused in school buses. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that either.
Yeah, which we do a mix of those two things,
right.
basically, which
Well,
seems to be the most reasonable solution. The most reasonable solution would be to have neighborhood schools and just bus the kids. But,
absolutely.
But, you know, we can't do that because we might have to admit the city's segregated. but
and we can't solve that problem.
Yeah, no,
impossible.
Good Lord.
Well, I think gentrification is currently solving it for us, but yeah. But yeah, I mean,
I think the process of gentrification desegregates, but it's the end of that process is resegregation.
Oh yeah.
That's what charter schools are about too.
Yeah.
I think part of this is speaking to the question of what's the problem. I think this is just more veneration of the 21st century tech worker.
Yeah.
And the myth that these people are superhumans who are smarter than everybody else, and that they're innovators.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, imagine looking at Uber and thinking these people are, like, have a good and, a transportation model that has a future, right?
A just and equitable future we all want to live in.
Right.
But it's also just, like, this belief in progress, like, the future's coming, the future's gonna be better, we have to be ready for it, though, so we're doing our due diligence to, like, get ready for the future by, because we're not gonna be the school district that's left behind in the past, and everybody laughs at, like, oh my gosh, welcome to the 21st century, you're still using yellow school buses, when it's so obvious, that there's these other, like, flying solutions.
Yeah, like, my kid can go in a Tesla to school, that rocks.
An automated
Have they
Tesla.
considered loading the children into a cannon? Just fire them back to their home.
But, like, I'm sure in the end it buys into this, like, right-wing efficiency frame of, like, well, budgets are smaller and smaller all the time, the status quo that liberals buy into, one of the worst ones is constantly shrinking municipal budgets. So it's not even like the budget is like a status quo level. It's like, no, it's literally getting smaller. That's the status quo that we will buy into and and just work around. And so it's always like, how do we do this, again, by employing fewer people?
Yeah, well, we talked about that on our last episode where we talked about... Well, we talked about it with Jason. I mean, these people are really into austerity, but they don't realize that destroys government's ability to basically function at all.
Yeah.
And so it's just this continual erosion of all the services. And these moves play into the hands of people like Christopher Rufo. I mean, it reinforces their narrative that government can't work because it's been completely starved. And they have to look outside to Uber and Lyft and Amazon for solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been like the classic two-step with schools, right? First you defund the school, and then you point at it and go, "Look how bad that school's doing. We should take more money from them, right?" It just becomes this constant like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, that was No Child Left Behind, basically, right?
Yeah, and given its like origins in desegregating the schools, it's hard not to see it as like a direct result of having two separate education systems.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. That sounds like it sucks.
They're really happy though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you could be so happy in a room with like 48 faces of missing women, but...
Yeah, I think we can all be rest assured nothing good happened in that room that day.
But don't forget, like, on the opposite wall, there's a bunch of frames with, like, the Facebook question mark.
Oh, yeah.
Is that from Facebook?
Yeah.
A little ghost shell or whatever for your picture.
Yeah. Well, We did
Cool.
it.
That's
We did
innovated. We innovated. Our brains conjured magic and we did it.
Y'all's show forced the Innovation Council to come up with this list, and boy, is it a good one.
They've been sweating bullets this whole time.
You guys had the pressure on.
There's these guys on a boat, and they have a website. They know.
They're mobile on the boat.
They
We have no idea where
know!
they're at. They could be outside right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they forced you.
We're
You forced
We're
them.
peering in their Amazon towers with my nautical spyglass, my large 7-foot brass spyglass that we have out. We're in South Lake Union right now.
Well, they're just
not the
jealous.
neighborhood, the south end of the lake.
They're jealous because we're seasteading, and that's what
That's
they
the dream.
want. Yeah.
Oh my god.
We're operating servers in international waters that you don't even know about, like, 25 miles off the coast.
Oh god, we're gonna talk seasteading one day.
I keep bringing it
We're
up.
gonna-
Well, look. I mean, the thing is, if listeners, if you guys go on the Patreon, it is exclusive seasteading content on the Patreon. So if you're into seasteading, get your cash out, mail it to Greg on his boat. Just write care of the boat, put it in the mailbox, and you'll get all the seasteading content you need.
Yeah,
Pretty sure that's how it works, right?
That's exactly how it
our
works. Thank you.
zine is it's called Sea Sucker.
Well, so Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about or plug before we say goodbye?
You did have a very recent piece in Jacobin that was about what was that one about?
I had a recent piece of Jacobin that was about the programs that police and other community organizations are running in schools to teach children not to get murdered by the police. So they teach you the various survival techniques that you need to avoid the wrath of the furious police officer. So if you really want to get bummed out, feel free to check that out.
And you've got a couple of other pieces coming out soon, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere.
I got some stuff in the works. So we'll see.
All right, we'll stay tuned into that. Cool,
Yeah,
everybody.
and if you're not following Brian, follow him on Twitter at Brian_no_name.
Yep, worst name on Twitter still.
Display name Abolish Ice. He's really funny and he rocks, so you should follow him. I think that's it. We have one new patron, and we want to thank you so much. Grant Leem, I think, was how Greg pronounced it in our Super Suckers episode. So if I mispronounced your name, I'm sorry, but I appreciate your support. If you want to be like Grant or the other suckers, you can find us on Patreon. It helps. We appreciate it. So I think that's it.
Hell yeah.
All right. Adios.
Ahoy, ahoy.
I'm so drunk. I just want some chips and dip. Chips and